Welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm Grady Culhane, and I have a special guest from Love Live Local and a new award recipient for the Mercy Otis Warren Cape Cod Woman of the Year. Do you mind just giving a little introduction for our listeners?
Sure. My name is Amanda Converse, and I am the co-founder and executive director of Love Live Local. We're a small business advocacy organization here on Cape Cod.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me in.
Yeah, so first things first, congratulations. Thank
you very much. I'm incredibly blown away by the honor, and also really humbled when you look at the list of past recipients. To think that I have joined those ranks is pretty amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. I was made aware that there was 48 nominations total this year, which is on the higher end.
Oh wow!
And so you were quite up there, cream of the crop. I'm sure everybody gave a strong showing, has been very integral to the community. So all of these people have done an amazing job.
Well, I do have to say, on Cape Cod, there are many incredible women who do a lot of great things for our community. So to be recognized amongst that group is again just so incredible to me.
Yeah, it's amazing that we have 50 people essentially that are so worth this. They've put so much time and effort into the community. But do you mind talking a little bit more about I guess what is it that you do with Love Live Local specifically? That was kind of the highlight of some of the ways that made you a nomination for this award that recognizes just some local women that are giving back to the community. But what are some of the highlights for Love Live Local? We're going to go down the list of all the things that you've been involved in over the years. But just starting there with Love Live Local, can you elaborate more?
Sure. Well, actually, when I came back to the Cape, I was born and raised in Falmouth, and I came back after graduate school, and I started working for the Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District, and that was where I learned how important our small businesses are to our local economy and to our community, and how many communities across the country have lost their sense of place because they have lost their small businesses. And so it was really then that I started trying to educate people about why they're so important. And it's not just because they are our neighbors and friends, although that's a good reason to support people who own small businesses here on the Cape, but it's also economically much better for our municipalities and for our local economy. And it was there that I started to really dive into the kind of shop local movement. And when I, actually ended up opening my own business in 2009. I owned an eco boutique, and there I started asking, why aren't people telling people to shop local more? Why isn't this a conversation? And so we, along with my co-founders Jen Villa and Kate Sheehan, we started talking about it a lot, and we founded Love Live Local, where we basically wanted to communicate how great this place is and highlight the reasons that this place is so great. And one of them is the small businesses and the owners and the people who work there, who just give this community so much vitality and color. And that was in 2013. So we're actually celebrating our 10th year this year. Oh. And for many years, it was a passion project of ours. And we ran it alongside of our businesses, and then in early 2020, we became a nonprofit organization that was really focused on communicating and advocating the importance of shopping local and supporting small businesses.
Congratulations, part two, on such another milestone there. So you graduated George Washington University, then moved back to the Cape, which is now a rarity in these times. More so now, especially in this past 2 years. What was it that made you want to come back to the Cape? What's so special about it?
I went to graduate school in Washington, D.C., and honestly, when I went there, I thought that's where I was going to end up. I thought I'd work in the federal government and make a difference. I very quickly learned that things move at a snail's pace there, and it didn't feel to me that I was making an impact. And so I decided to come back. And for a couple of years, I didn't know if this is where I would stay, but I knew that being a part of a smaller community is where you can really get engaged and make an impact on the community. And so after a few years, I feel like I really settled in, and this community welcomed me back with open arms, and also whenever I had crazy ideas like to start a fashion magazine, they were like, sure, yes, let's do this. And I think it's a place like this where people for the most part have a can-do supportive attitude, and it enables you to get engaged and really make a difference. And I also have really good role models. My parents are incredibly engaged in the community, have been advocates and champions for this place for a long time. So, coming back, they also were happy to have me come home and continue on the legacy of volunteerism and really celebrating Cape Cod.
Now, forgive me for putting you on the spot, but we were talking off microphone as well, and you just gave a lovely story about how you were made aware that you have been the recipient of this award. Do you mind just kind of telling the story again now that we're on mic?
I will. So Judy Scarafile, who is also another incredible woman on Cape Cod, she is prolific and involved and has been a trailblazer for women for many years. It also happens to be one of my parents' best friends, and I have known her my whole life. She is also on the Mercy Otis Warren committee and was the one to deliver the news. And that was incredibly meaningful just because she has seen me grow up. Quite literally. And I remember doing a school report, interviewing her in maybe the fourth grade on camera, and had to ask her. She was doing stuff with whale strandings, and I was interviewing her about that and marine life on the Cape.
Another recurring topic of late.
Yeah, and it just goes, not only was she the commissioner of the Cape Cod Baseball League, but she also helped with stranded whales, and, it was
many hats.
Was also, a role model for me growing up and then also in my adult life. And so to have her deliver the news was just incredibly special. And she said she had to avoid my mother for many days until she could actually tell because we had to keep it secret until it was voted on. And so she had to avoid my mom because she was so happy and proud, which makes me feel really good.
Oh, that is very sweet, and it's nice that you're able to kind of have that ongoing connection. Makes it more sentimental.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Please forgive me for.
I'm happy to shout out. Like I said, I'm surrounded by amazing mentors and role models, including the women who nominated me. Which to have people who have helped shape my life and my life of service to then ask for me to be recognized just is beyond comprehension. Sometimes it's just really overwhelming, the emotion.
So as well, one of the major things that was a part of your nomination was a lot of your efforts in trying to help local businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are now seeing the ending to the official emergencies at the state and federal level. So that's positive news. But do you mind kind of talking about how the pandemic began and where you were starting to see some of these things falling through the cracks?
Sure, absolutely.
What your reaction was.
Yeah. So like I said, Love Live Local was a passion project for many years. In January of 2020, we decided to seek a nonprofit status and make this, a full-fledged nonprofit organization here on the Cape. And I let go of my small businesses and began to focus full-time at that point. And we didn't know that the timing would be so incredibly significant. We had actually been trying to kind of ring the alarm bells for years that small businesses are at risk. If something big happens or something gradual happens, like the onset of online shopping and all of that, that does impact us here on the Cape. We are not insulated by the bridge. There are national trends, global trends that impact us here, and that was something we've been trying to communicate and raise awareness around. And when the pandemic happened and businesses had to close, I think that's when people started to see, oh my gosh, what would Cape Cod look like without our main streets, with full vibrant main streets and downtowns, and honestly, I mean, COVID didn't just impact those brick and mortars; it impacted every industry. But when we first went into lockdown, which seems so crazy now, but when we first went into lockdown, the government was talking about we'll give businesses loans, and you, as a small business, you don't take on debt like that when you don't know what your future is going to look like. And so for a lot of businesses, they're wrestling with this, am I going to take out this loan, or am I going to close and cut my losses? And luckily that attitude did shift, because I think groups like ours and groups like ours across the country, which there are many, many amazing local business associations and advocacy groups across the country, started saying, this is an unacceptable way to deal with it. And so a lot of those loans did become grants, and there were a lot more grant opportunities and that type of stuff. But at that time, we didn't know. And so we started scrambling to say, we knew the community wanted to help, but they didn't have a mechanism to funnel that. They were trying to shop online and pick up curbside and do takeout and, all of that. But we started the Cape Cod Resilience Fund, where we raised money in order to give out grants to pay for at least one bill. If we could help with one bill for a business, then, at least they're getting that bit of a boost from the community, and also a little bit of relief. And we were able to give out $121,000 and to 131 businesses, and for many of them, they said it was the only relief they received because of some of the strict parameters to the government funding. So, and that is just we were the conduits for that. But it was one of those things where it didn't exist. That type of thing didn't exist, and we said, well, then we'll create it and we'll make it happen. And so that was definitely a group effort, and the community showed up for the businesses again. So that was great.
That's awesome to hear. And even now, as we're getting out of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's not my place to say that it is officially over, that it's not my expertise. And I'm sure we're going to feel the effects for a long time.
Yeah.
But speaking of, that's kind of where your attention has been going next. There's been a lot of efforts for local main streets as we're recovering from COVID. Do you want to elaborate more on that?
Sure. So, in the spirit of the Resilience Fund, we started to see what could micro grants do for small businesses, and we saw what happened when small businesses are given these critical resources to be able to really compete with their corporate counterparts. And so this past year, alongside the Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District, launched the Local Business Boost Program, and we were able to get funds to give out micro grants to right now just businesses on Hyannis Main Street. My goal is to take this program Cape-wide, but we're giving grants of $6,000 and meeting with the small businesses, finding out what their priorities are. These are things that they put off doing because they don't have the time or the money or the expertise to do. And so it could be something in their physical space, or setting up an outdoor, dining area, and but that investment of the furniture and the barriers and that's, some businesses can't take that on, or it's helping them, start taking online orders for like a food service business or something like that, and giving them the resources to do it, identifying their priorities, giving them the resources, and then matching them with vetted local service providers. So that money is then staying here in the community. It's a requirement that that the money is spent with another local business. So we're just recirculating those dollars here. And we did a pilot program last year, gave money out to 7 small businesses, and it was incredibly successful. We found $6,000 was a sweet spot for being able to make an impact. And then this year we were able to get enough funding to give out 20 more grants. So that's something we'd like to see continue. The small businesses here return so much of their resources. The money they take in gets recirculated here in this community by 1.5 to 4 times their corporate counterparts. So corporations don't put very much money back into our community. So what we're saying is we would love to see our communities reinvesting in that, giving a little return on that investment that then recirculates again. So, like I said, the goal is to grow this program and to also give the small businesses the confidence they need to carry out these projects. I think I was a small business owner. I know what it's like. I went to every single seminar you could or attended trainings, and I did the things that I was supposed to do. And then I would go back to my retail shop and I would get distracted, or I would have to check in an order, or I would have to clean the bathrooms. I was a sole proprietor. I did not have employees. And so it was one of those things where all the best intentions, but being able, if I had the resources to just have somebody else carry out the work, that would have probably, elevated my business even more. And so we're trying to help in that regard now.
That is awesome, and definitely that just the conversation about resources is one that's going to keep coming back as we get away from COVID, hopefully.
Yeah.
We're now looking at the summer season. Not only is that the busiest time for the Cape and Islands region, but it's also going to be getting close to that June 14th. That's when the event is going to be taking place at the 1717 Meeting House. We're going to get the award. For those who aren't familiar with Cape Cod time, June 14th is about 7 seconds away functionally. So how are you kind of gearing up with this summer going on, bearing that in mind? Just what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so I love this time of year. I was just in Provincetown the other day, and it's so great to see everyone getting all the spaces ready and opening up. And I mean, it really is a time of like energy and new energy and vibrancy. And I think there's always that level of excitement this time of year, and I share in that. And I think we are in for a busy summer. Like you said, it's our busiest season. We're always in for a busy summer. And we want to be able to support the businesses as much as we can. We encouraging people to patronize them, but also to be really patient, because they are still dealing with some of the impacts of COVID-19 and also the realities of Cape Cod. So, most of them are still looking for help. There is quite an employee shortage, and that kind of runs the gamut in most industries. So that means that people are going to need to be patient, recognize that they're serving you the best way they possibly can. But that, of course, is based on our lack of affordable housing and attainable housing for our workforce. And so that's definitely a huge, huge problem. But we aim to, there are great minds on Cape Cod working on these really large problems that impact our local business community, the housing issue, childcare issue, and wastewater. And we aim to be kind of boots on the ground advocates and listen to, are there other issues that are like kind of on the other end of things? Like that's the foundational end, but what about the practical end? And is it, there are insane credit card fees that people are now dealing with because we have a duopoly in the credit card business? Or is it, healthcare costs that because the healthcare industries are so consolidated, they're being impacted. So we try to look at those issues mostly that come about because of corporate concentration, and so we try to help identify that and raise awareness with the public and our policymakers. Yeah.
That is awesome, and I'm sure that you have a lot on your plate yourselves with all these things, getting in touch with local policymakers and lawmakers. But as we are, that's about all the time that we have, unfortunately. But is there anything else you want to really highlight upcoming for Love Live Local,
Sure.
or just your reactions with this award? But anything else for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, Love Live Local, it's also we have an incredibly busy summer season. We have our Love Local Fests that are down on Aselton Park. July 30th and September 24th are our summer fests on Aselton Park, where we have local makers and vendors pop up, and local food trucks, local bands, everything Cape Cod, and they're really a celebration of our local business community. And then we have our Love Local field guide that is coming out. It's really we think the best way to use to explore Cape Cod authentically, organically, and locally. So just really highlighting all of the great local businesses. And in terms of this award, I mean, I can't say enough how humbling it was that I was nominated, that I was voted on, that I was supported by the commissioners, but then also the outpouring of congratulations has been, I've been off and on crying for the last 2 days, just feeling really, humbled by it all, really. So, and I can only hope to continue to serve the Cape Cod community in a really impactful and productive way.
All right, awesome. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Grady.
And thank you as well. This has been a conversation with Amanda Converse for Sunday Journal. I'm Grady Culhane.